flowing through it. Every part of this land tells a story of culture and devotion.
Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Global. We'll get you top stories from India and the region. I am Tanvi Taneja. And for news from the rest of the world, I'm joined by my colleague in London, Ollie Barrett. Ollie, good to have you back on the show.
Coming up in international news, including London's attempts to reduce vehicle pollution, more extreme heat in the US, and Japan's latest missile deal with Washington. First, the headlines.
China and the United States must step up together to solve global issues. US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo tells Chinese Premier Li Keqiang. Defence ministers of India and Kenya meet in New Delhi, the first ministerial level visit from Kenya since last year.
India and Kenya, in particular, have always enjoyed close and friendly relations. Our collaborations in trade, economy, education, health, and people-to-people contacts have grown from strength to strength.
And the world celebrates India's colourful harvest festival of Onam. The United States and Chinese officials are holding a series of fresh talks on contentious trade issues during a three-day visit to Beijing by US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo. The trip is crucial for relations between the two countries as Washington seeks to diffuse tensions with China. In a pivotal moment for US and China, US Commerce Secretary Gina Raimondo met China's Premier Li Keqiang in Beijing on Tuesday. This is her second full day of meetings with top Chinese leaders on balancing business ties and national security concerns. Gina Raimondo earlier met China's Vice Premier Hu Lifeng. Earlier, the Chinese Minister of Commerce Wang Wentao and Gina Raimondo met to exchange views on bilateral trade. It was a significant meeting with a wide-reaching effect, with Wang stressing the importance of the two countries' relations to the rest of the world.
I am willing to work with you to create a good policy environment for cooperation between the business sectors of both countries and to promote the steady and predictable development of bilateral trade and investment so as to inject new impetus into the global economic recovery.
Raimondo also stressed the importance of bilateral trade and economic relations.
But as you say, the vast majority of our trade and investment relationship does not involve national security concerns. And in this regard, I'm committed to promoting trade and investment in those areas that are in our mutual best interest.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two leaders reviewed progress on a number of issues around bilateral cooperation and exchanged views on the recent BRICS summit. Russian President Putin won't attend the G20 summit next month and will be represented by Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov. The Indian Premier also thanked President Putin for Russia's consistent support to all initiatives under India's G20 presidency. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh held bilateral talks with his Kenyan counterpart in India's capital earlier today. Arden Bare Duale, the Cabinet Secretary for Kenya's Ministry of Defence, was welcomed by Rajnath Singh with a guard of honour. This is the first and the highest level standalone political visit from Kenya since the new government assumed office in September last year. The visiting dignitary will visit the Indian shipyards and defence industries in India's port city of Goa and southern city of Bengaluru. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh thanked Kenya for its support.
India and Kenya, in particular, have always enjoyed close and friendly relations. Our collaborations in trade, economy, education, health, and people-to-people contacts have grown from strength to strength. I am happy to note that both our countries worked closely in the UN Security Council in 2021-22 as non-permanent members, and we thank Kenya for their support to the Indian candidature for the 2028-29 term also.
Kenyan Defence Secretary Aden Bare Duale welcomed the move to strengthen relations between the two countries.
When Prime Minister Modi visited our country in 2017, it was a historic visit. We want to acknowledge the support the Indian government continues to extend to Kenya and to thank you, Minister, through many fields. At the defense level, we have cooperated in the surveillance of the Indian Ocean maritime space. And I am sure this visit will extend more our bilateral relations between our two countries, but more so between our defense sector.
Earlier today, Kenya's Defence Secretary Aden Bare laid a wreath at the National War Memorial in India's capital city, New Delhi. Duale arrived on Monday for a 3-day visit to India. This visit holds importance amid the growing cooperation between India and Kenya and is expected to open new avenues in strengthening defence ties between the two countries. Now, Brazil's Army General Thomas Miguel Paiva is also on an official visit to India. The Army Chief laid a wreath at the National War Memorial in New Delhi on Tuesday. He was welcomed by a guard of honor at the President's house. The Brazilian general is scheduled to meet India's Army Chief and Chief of Defence Staff and will also visit the Army and Air Force units during his stay. The meeting aims to strengthen army ties and defence partnership between the two countries. Thomas is the first Brazilian army chief to visit India. On to Europe now. Every driver in London as of Tuesday is now subject to strict pollution rules, completing one of the world's most ambitious vehicle emissions policies. My colleague Ollie Barrett is in London and gives us more on this and other stories making it to the headlines across the world. Ollie, over to you.
London has expanded its ultra-low emission zone, as you say, Tanvi, on Tuesday to all boroughs in a bid to discourage users of more polluting vehicles from entering the city. Drivers who choose to cross the boundary with vehicles that don't meet requirements will have to pay nearly $16 every day. Stuart Smith has more from London.
The centre of the city has had an ultra-low emissions zone since 2019, but this policy means hundreds of thousands more may be susceptible to the charge. The Mayor proposed the policy in order to reduce the harm of toxic air pollution, which researchers found was responsible for prematurely killing 4,000 Londoners a year. Those in opposition say it's unfair on those who require a car to move around and don't have the means to upgrade their vehicle or use public transport alternatives. It's turned into a massive political hot potato between the Conservative government and the opposition Labour Party. While the Conservatives run the country, Labour runs London, and the elected Mayor Sadiq Khan says the government seems to be weaponising air pollution and climate change for political reasons. Outrage amongst some has resulted in hundreds of the new ULEZ cameras reportedly being vandalised or stolen ahead of the start date to prevent vehicle number plates being scanned and stop fines being issued. The Mayor's office says it's not backing down, with some cameras getting armour plating to protect them. Stuart Smith in London, reporting for DD India.
Another wave of extreme heat has hit Phoenix, Arizona in the United States, with temperatures rising to 116 degrees Fahrenheit or 46.6 degrees Celsius.
Phoenix, Arizona is facing another round of scorching summer heat, with temperatures hitting 116 degrees Fahrenheit on Monday. It's coming after a 31-day streak of temperatures above 100 degrees Fahrenheit over the month of July. But a break from those sweltering highs seem to be over. Visitors to the city like Alex Arriaga from Alabama have been taken aback by the heat's intensity.
It's a very dry heat. And if I had to really explain it to someone that wasn't from here, they probably would never want to come and visit. But it's got great scenery. If you're not from here, it's almost like they just built a city inside of a desert, which really is what it is. So.
Alex Young, the lead meteorologist at the National Weather Service's Phoenix office, said this summer is rivaling the hottest on record in 2020.
In terms of what we know with the period of record, it's on this heat over the summer, especially July and August, is unprecedented.
Young said that compared to 2020, the heat this summer is more concentrated across a shorter time frame.
The Earth is warming, we know that to be true. To what extent it has in terms of our day-to-day weather, maybe not so much, but the things that we see in terms of the data is how things are trending over time, and things are trending warmer with more extreme events, kind of like what we've seen this summer with the heat wave.
Residents in low-lying areas along the Gulf Coast in Florida are bracing for the impact of Tropical Storm Idalia. The storm's expected to become a hurricane in the coming days.
Tropical Storm Idalia was expected to strengthen into a major hurricane before making landfall on Florida's Gulf Coast on Tuesday, according to the National Hurricane Center. The storm churned past western Cuba on Monday, giving Americans a preview of what's to come. Homes were flooded in towns south of Havana, and thousands of people were evacuated. Satellite animations show the storm's growing intensity. Its current northerly track put some 14 million Floridians under hurricane and tropical storm warning.
And this is an area that we're highlighting the danger of life-threatening inundation from storm surge. So the circulation of Idalia is going to push water from the Gulf of Mexico up into places like Charlotte Harbor, Tampa Bay, in the Big Bend region, where the storm surge is very, very sensitive here.
Floridians were seen on Monday making preparations ahead of Idalia's landfall. People in Tampa were seen filling up sandbags at a distribution point. School districts across the region cancelled classes starting on Monday afternoon. Tampa International Airport said it would suspend commercial operations starting Tuesday. At a gas station in Gainesville, people gathered emergency supplies. Some were seen filling up jerry cans of fuel, while things like bottled water quickly sold out.
A new report warns the growing impact of unhealthy air could reduce life expectancy in South Asia by more than 5 years per person. A University of Chicago study estimates that India contributes to nearly 59% of the increase in global pollution. The findings showed average life expectancy in India's New Delhi has decreased by more than 10 years. According to the World Health Organization, lowering harmful airborne particles can raise life expectancy by more than 2 years. Japan has received the green light from Washington to purchase more than $100 million of air-to-surface missiles. Tokyo had requested to buy up to 50 of the weapons, following the procurement of more than 500 Tomahawk missiles in a similar arrangement with the United States. Chris Gilbert reports from Tokyo.
Well, Washington has approved the request from Tokyo for a $104 million deal to supply missiles that can be mounted to the Japan Self-Defense Force F-15 fighter jets. The US says that this is an important step to help what they call a major ally, secure their political and economic position in the Indo-Pacific. And securing that economic position is becoming a very profitable trade for the US, because before this $104 million deal, there was a $1.6 billion sale of Tomahawk missiles from the US to Japan, plus extra for the hardware to mount that to Japanese naval vessels. This all follows a decision from Tokyo to double its defense budget over the coming years. The first step has been done in that already to respond to security challenges, perceived security challenges that are rising in the Indo-Pacific region. It's also endowed itself with extra, abilities in its new national security strategy, counter-strike abilities to attack enemy bases should the need arise. Japan, of course, is constitutionally a pacifist country. However, successive administrations with the US support have found workarounds to endow the self-defense forces in moves like this purchase to really improve, or as they say, enhance Japan's security in the Indo-Pacific. Chris Gilbert in Tokyo, reporting for DD India.
Chris Gilbert there in Tokyo. That's it from me here in London. Tanvi, back to you in Delhi.
Thank you, Ollie. Ollie Barrett joining me from our London bureau. You're with us on DD India Global. Still to come on the show. India remembers its legendary hockey player Dhyan Chand on National Sports Day. And unique celebrations underway in the United Arab Emirates for the Indian Harvest Festival, Onam.
Swagatam to Andhra Pradesh, the coastal jewel of India. A state steeped in history. From the Gandi Kota Fort to the majestic Gondapalli Fort. A region known as the Rice Bowl of India. A holy land with rivers Krishna and Godavari flowing through it. Every part of this land tells a story of culture and devotion. And of a modern, developed, vibrant India. The graceful Kuchipudi and exuberant Dhimsa showcase the artistic brilliance of this land. The Ikkat and Kalamkari speak of the talent of artisans and their skilled hands. A cultural concoction that unites people in the spirit of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Global. I am Tanvi Taneja. Next, an update on the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry has termed its latest attack against Ukraine aviation weapons and ammunition a successful one. While reports say Ukraine launched strikes against Russian command posts and air defense systems, Ukrainian armed forces say 26 combats have taken place between Russian and Ukrainian troops in the last 24 hours. Amid all this, Ukraine's defense minister says there was no fallout between his country and Western partners over military strategy in the ongoing counter-offensive.
I can absolutely 100% confirm that there is no conflict. These assumptions by the Western press are mistaken and invented. There is no conflict. There is working, friendly communication, systematic consultations, and such meetings as that of Commander-in-Chief Valery Zelensky are systematically taking place between him and his counterparts. He doesn't leave the territory of Ukraine, and regarding the communication, not everything can be trusted, even certain protected means of communication.
On to America now. March 4th, 2024. That's the day Donald Trump's federal trial on allegations that he tried to overturn the 2020 presidential election is slated to begin. That means the former president and current Republican 2024 frontrunner will be juggling a schedule full of court cases and campaigning. DD India's Tony Waterman has more from Texas.
This trial would start in the middle of the Republican presidential primaries and the day before Super Tuesday. That is when more than a dozen states will vote on potential presidential nominees. Now, Trump's team had asked for the trial to be pushed back to April of 2026, arguing that they needed the time to review all 13 million pages of evidence that's been turned over so far. But Judge Tanya Chutkan refused, saying that a March 4th start date was adequate time to to prepare. She said Trump will have to prioritize the trial and that she won't be making any changes to the schedule for professional obligations. One thing she did do, though, was check in with the judge overseeing Trump's hush money case in Manhattan because there is likely to be overlap. That trial, in which the former president faces 34 charges, is scheduled to start in late March. Now, Trump took to social media to lambast the trial date, calling it election interference and saying that he will appeal. But the truth is, he is fighting 91 charges across 4 cases that could all go to trial before Election Day in November of 2024. Besides the elections case in D.C., there's again that hush money case in New York, the mishandling of classified documents in Florida, that trial slated to start next May, and the Georgia elections case where Trump and 18 co-defendants have been charged with trying to overturn the election results in that state. The prosecutor there wants that trial to start this coming October, setting up a very busy year of court cases and presidential campaigning for Donald Trump. Tony Waterman in Austin, Texas, reporting for DD India.
Next news from Southeast Asia. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has visited the country's Navy command and called for radically modernizing its weapons and equipment. He was accompanied by his wife, Ri Sol-ju, and daughter Kim Ju-ai. In his speech to mark the Navy Day, the North Korean leader denounced the leaders of the US, Japan and South Korea as gang bosses. Kim also criticized the increased presence of the United States in the region. North Korea says it's been building its ballistic missile program to counter Western aggression. Meanwhile, Special Command troops from the US and South Korea have held joint maritime infiltration training. The troops trained as part of the Ulchi Freedom Shield exercises. About 100 soldiers from the 2 nations took part in the drills. South Korea said this year the exercises being held are at the largest scale ever and are designed to enhance the joint response to North Korea's nuclear and missile threats. Next news of China. Amid evacuations taking place in flooded provinces of eastern and central China, emergency responders are wading through high levels of flood water to reach trapped residents. Unrelenting downpours continue to trigger flash floods and wreak havoc there. Emergency responders in Hubei and Jiangxi province were seen wading through high levels of flood water to reach trapped residents. China has been gripped by weeks of heavy rains and floods amid an unusually wet summer. China's government has called for more precautions against flooding as Typhoon Saola now makes its way across the South China Sea. Now let's take a look at what other stories are making it to the news around the world. Torrential rains have caused floods in several regions of Western Austria since Monday. Rainfall is now not as intense, but the flooding and mudslides have interrupted rail traffic on several lines in the Tyrol region. The rivers have reached critical levels with the evacuation of people in the affected regions, and more thunderstorms could further increase the intensity of rain. Ukraine mourns the death of its ace fighter pilot, Captain Andrei Pilishchikov, known as Juice. He died in a 2-plane collision along with 2 other Ukrainian Air Force pilots. The Air Force officials said that the tragedy happened during a combat mission in a region west of Kiev. A ship Primus carrying steel products to Africa reaches Istanbul on Tuesday. The vessel crossed Ukraine's Odessa port through a temporary Black Sea corridor. This is the second ship to do so since Russia last month withdrew from a UN-brokered deal that allowed for grain to be safely exported. A Pakistani court suspended former Prime Minister Imran Khan's recent conviction on corruption charges on Tuesday. The suspension will not lead to his release, as a judge has ordered his detention in another case. Khan was imprisoned on August the 5th after being sentenced to 3 years jail for corruption charges. Back to India now. After the success of its moon mission Chandrayaan-3, the Indian Space Research Organization ISRO yesterday announced that the Aditya L1 mission, the first space-based Indian observatory to study the sun, will be launched on September 2nd from Sriharikota. So what will the Aditya L1 mission study? Our correspondent Jai Singh tells us more.
Well, after reaching the moon, now the ISRO is aiming at the sun. Initially, Aditya L1, which is the first space observatory to be deployed by India to study the sun, will be taken to a point which is 15 lakh kilometers from the earth, called Lagrangian point 1. So, sun is, having plenty of secrets under its fold to be studied by the humanity. So there are solar flares, there are corona mass ejection, mass discharge, and also several interesting characteristics like sunspots and magnetic flare-ups.
Indian Information and Broadcasting Minister Anurag Singh Thakur on Tuesday announced that cooking gas price has been reduced by 200 rupees per cylinder. This initiative is a part of the Indian Prime Minister's Ujjwala scheme. The scheme is aimed to provide liquefied petroleum gas connections to women living below the poverty line. The Indian government has also approved over 7 million additional connections, which will take the total beneficiaries to more than 103 million.
ओणम और रक्षाबंधन के इस पावन अवसर पर प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने निर्णय लिया है कि 200 रुपया गैस सिलेंडर के दाम कम किए जाएंगे। सभी उपभोक्ताओं के लिए 200 रुपये दाम कम होंगे। तो मुझे कहते हुए प्रसन्नता है कि एक बार देश की लाखों बहनों के लिए फिर प्रधानमंत्री मोदी जी ने बड़ा तोहफा दिया है कि 75 लाख बहनों के लिए उज्ज्वला गैस योजना के अंतर्गत उनको गैस कनेक्शन मिलेंगे। उनको 1 रुपया भी नहीं देना पड़ेगा। गैस कनेक्शन भी मुफ्त मिलेंगे, पहला सिलेंडर भी, पाइप भी, चूल्हा भी।
India is celebrating its National Sports Day today. Every year, 29th of August is celebrated as National Sports Day in India to commemorate the birth anniversary of hockey wizard Major Dhyan Chand Singh. Our next report brings you all that you need to know about this day and the hockey wizard.
India celebrates National Sports Day on 29th August to commemorate the birth anniversary of hockey legend Major Dhyan Chand. The day is also dedicated to the nation's sports heroes and champions, honoring their contribution and dedication towards bringing laurels to the country. In recognition of his unparalleled contributions to the realm of sports, the Indian government declared his birthday as National Sports Day in 2012, with the aim to inspire generations to come. This decision was also focused on promoting sports and physical fitness among the people in the country. Dhyan Chand, the hockey wizard, is considered equal to Pele in football and Bradman in cricket. It is said that when he used to take hockey to the ground, the ball used to stick to his stick as if he was playing hockey with a magic stick. Even today, no player has been able to reach the records made by Dhyan Chand in hockey. Born in Allahabad on 29th August 1905, which is now known as Prayagraj, Major Dhyan Chand was the greatest Indian hockey player. Before the Second World War, Dhyan Chand played a key role in getting India gold medals in hockey in 3 consecutive Olympics in 1928 Amsterdam, 1932 Los Angeles and 1936 Berlin. He was the top scorer for India in 1928 Amsterdam Olympic Games as he scored 14 goals. Major Dhyan Chand played his last match in the year 1948. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan in 1956. His birthday was declared as the National Sports Day of India. The highest sports honor in India, Khel Ratna, has been named after the hockey wizard. With the aim to raise awareness about the values of sports, discipline, perseverance, sportsmanship, teamwork, and to encourage the public at large to take up sports and make it an integral part of lives while emphasizing on the importance of being fit and healthy, India celebrates the National Sports Day. in recognition of unparalleled contributions of sports persons with the aim to inspire generations to come. This decision was also focused on promoting sports and physical fitness among the people in the country. Sports Desk, DD India.
And as we wind up DD India Global, we take you now to United Arab Emirates, where healthcare heroes from diverse nationalities added a unique touch to this year's Indian Harvest Festival Odam. They crafted a stunning 250 square meter pukkalam, which is a floral art piece to mirror the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. That's all in this edition of DD India Global. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. That's it in this bulletin. Thank you for being with us from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.